Welcome, everybody, to the January 2024 Animal Reiki Talk. Happy to be here with all of you and for us to be discussing our special topic tonight, which is Animal Reiki at the end of life or in life's final chapter. I am excited to talk about this topic because for all of us animal lovers, this is maybe the hardest time to offer Reiki and to navigate. And we have lots of tools in our toolbox in the Let Animals Lead method. And so, Animal Reiki is a wonderful healing support and a beautiful way to ease the transition and also just to live more fully in the time that we have left with our animals. And so, you guys may have read my blog this month, and I'm going to sort of talk about the blog a bit because I want to center my talk tonight on the 6 pillars of the Let Animals Lead method. Those really give us clues for how to navigate this. After I talk, I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions and comments and sharing, and then we're going to finish tonight with our animal healing circle like we always do. So let's begin. First of all, animal Reiki. If we zoom out and just see, like, oh, what does it do? How does it help? And really, it's about relaxation and stress relief. And it does this not only for our animals, but also for us. And maybe one of the most stressful times for us in our animals' life is when they are winding down in their final days. And so we can find ourselves very emotional and stressed at that time. And also for our animals, depending on what physical ailments they might be dealing with at that time, also that perhaps they're worrying about us. So there can be a lot of stress on the animals as well. So what I want you to remember is that the beauty of our animal Reiki practice is to lighten all of that and bring peace, embrace this whole process with harmony and peace. And even if you are caught up in the emotions, and even if you feel, oh, I can't hold space for my animal, I'm just too emotional. But I want you to remember that love transcends all of that stuff, and your animals feel your love and they know that you love them, and everything that you do for them is out of love, and it's going to transcend everything. And love even transcends death. So death never truly separates us from the ones we love. They're always here in our hearts. And our animal Reiki practice helps make that that string that holds us together in life and in transition and then beyond, that energy string. It helps us be more aware of that connection even beyond. And so you know in the beginning of my animal Reiki practice, I expected that people with healthy, young, vibrant animals like, you know, show horses and agility dogs and all these people would be seeking out Reiki. But because there's a lot of non-understanding about what Reiki is or skepticism about what Reiki is, I found that actually people whose animals were in their final days were the ones that sought me out. And maybe that's a good place for a lot of people to start with Reiki because they just don't understand it. And so, beautiful thing about Reiki is when everything else runs out, you don't have any more medications you can give them. There's, you know, nothing really left to do. Then there's Reiki. Of course, we can also do Reiki when our animals are healthy and, anytime. But Reiki is the thing that steps in when nothing else can. And I think that's so powerful and beautiful about our practice. And so just remembering that you have this wonderful tool to bring peace and embrace this difficult situation in the most beautiful harmony and comfort for yourself, for your animal. And if you're helping a friend or someone else, it brings comfort to the people as well as the animals. So it's just an amazing thing to offer. And so tonight I want to talk about, as we offer animal Reiki in this really precious, vulnerable time for an animal's life, um, let's stay focused on the six pillars of the Let Animals Lead method to help guide us. So we wonder, how do we do this, or what do we do? We can look at the six pillars to sort of give us guideposts on this part of our journey. So I'm going to start with pillar one and pillar four. Pillar one is that this practice is based on Japanese Reiki techniques. And pillar four is about our meditation is a state of mind, not a physical position of our body. So these two things work together really beautifully. We can see animal Reiki as creating a meditative space to hold our animals in peace and to offer them a space of all is well in that really difficult time. It may be a time of separation, physical separation with their people. Also, they could be feeling discomfort, physical discomfort at that time. And also, there's the emotions all around them, right? And so, just to be able to meditate and hold space with all of that, but to have that message that all is well is extremely powerful. And so, my favorite Japanese meditation to use at this time of life and in the last days, my favorite practice to do is the Reiki space meditation. And that is really about the hara breathing and allowing that space to just sort of expand from you and to sit in that space, and then to invite the animals to step in. And the animals really feel when our energy changes and the peace and calm and comfort that we're offering. And it can be incredibly helpful to them in that time. And also, their people can sense and feel this. And so, I think even those of us who aren't tuned in to our spiritual life in these times where our animals are in their final chapter and we may be getting ready to say goodbye to their physical form, right? Even the most unspiritual person becomes spiritual in that time. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it amazes me. We are just more in tune and tuned in, even though we distract ourselves with other things at other times in our life. Even those of us who aren't tuned in, we tune in at this time, and it's the love that inspires us to do that. So, this is a time where even humans can really sense and feel the power of that Reiki space that you're creating through meditation. And we're going to do at the end tonight, when we do our animal healing circle, I'm going to do some hara breathing with you and help you create that space, because it's a great practice to do anytime. But also, it's my favorite practice to hold space at this time because it is so simple. We're focusing on the breath and on the light. It's so beautiful. So, just being able to offer that in a space that is perhaps a bit chaotic and emotional, you can feel the power of that meditation to calm and to center everybody, even ourselves. So that meditation is really powerful. And that leads me to pillar four, which is being in a certain state of mind. We turn our mind and our hearts to that meditative space. It doesn't really matter what our bodies are doing. So when we're with animals and we're with them in their final days, we could be in a home with an animal like a dog or a cat, but we could also be standing in a pasture or a stall with a horse, or out on a farm, or we could even find ourselves on a path in the woods and we come upon an animal, right? Who's perhaps been, I know this has happened to some of my students, they've been hit by a car and they've wandered into the woods and they are walking and they find them there in their final moments. So, what do we do physically in that moment? It doesn't really matter. Whatever it is, think about what's comfortable for the animal, how far you might be from them. You don't want to stand over an animal. For example, a wild animal, you can always back up and find a comfortable position. But you can be sitting, standing, walking, really anything. It's about being present with that open heart. And when we practice our Reiki space meditation, our hara breathing, when we practice that, we can do that sitting, standing, walking, indoors, outdoors, around other people, alone, with our eyes open, our eyes closed. It is a very flexible practice. So you can be present. You can show up for the animal or perhaps the people in the space, wherever you are. You might be in someone's home. You could be at a vet clinic. You might be at a barn with a crowd of people. You can practice this meditation authentically and flexibly in whatever way is most comfortable for that situation, that place, that moment in time. So in other words, you don't have to go in and get all stiff and sit down in your do your gasho and close your eyes and be all stern. Absolutely not. In some situations, that may not be the best choice. You can be standing, you might have your arm on somebody, your arm around someone's shoulder, someone that you love. Um, you could be standing back a little bit. If you're in a vet clinic, for example, and the person and the vet are sitting with their animal, you could be sitting in the corner of the room and holding space. So there's so much flexibility to this practice, and it's really about the way that we use that Japanese meditation to point our mind and our heart into that space of peacefulness, comfort, loving kindness. And it creates that harmonious space that radiates out and touches everybody. And it's palpable in those very special moments near the end of life. It's very palpable to everybody there, the comfort that it brings. So another Japanese practice that I think is really beautiful for this time that I want to mention as well is the Reiki precept for today only. Now, I know we often don't think of that as a Reiki precept. We think of that, well, that's the intro, but the precepts are, do not anger, do not worry, be grateful, and so on, right? But I want us, for the purposes of Animal Reiki in life's final chapter, I want us to consider for today only as its own special precept. And the reason is because especially in these final days of our animal's life, every moment is even more precious, every single moment. And so I want you to remember to be present for every single one of those beautiful moments. And so when you feel, you know, yourself, if it's your animal, perhaps going into a space of worry or fear or whatever, what that really means is you're not present anymore. You're somewhere else with the fear and the worry. You're in the future going, what's going to happen? Or you're in the past. Oh, why didn't I do something different? So we weren't here right now. How we torture ourselves with the past and the future. And so the Reiki precept for today only reminds us, let's come back today. Let's come back here and now. Let's come back into this present moment. And the biggest gift we can give our animals is that presence. Let go of the past, let go of the future. All we have is this moment. And so just keep reminding yourself of that really profound piece of the Reiki precepts that we don't often focus on, right? We sort of see it as for today only. Okay, now let's get to the good stuff. Do not anger, do not worry, right? So I want you to, you know, when we are working with end of life, it encourages us to slow down. And so I want you to slow down and notice for today only. All we have is this moment right now. So let's be here. Let's be here now. We can't control what's going to happen, can't control what happened before. But I'm here with this animal, and maybe I'm with his people or wherever. I'm here now. And I'm going to be present with an open heart, with an open mind. Going to be here right now. Biggest gift that we can give them is that presence. So I want to move on to, I kind of group these into two pillars. So here's pillar two and pillar five of the Let Animals Lead method also are going to support us when we're offering animal Reiki at end of life. So, pillar 2 is about touch, and our what we practice in the Let Animals Lead method is that we only touch animals during Reiki when they initiate the touch. So that's the key. That's the thing that makes it different and special. The animal has to initiate the touch. So let's kind of start there, okay? Animals, for the most part, I learned this over many years of practice, they connect with energy differently than we do. We often connect through touch. We have hands. We are tactile creatures. We do stuff with our hands. We connect with our world through our hands. But animals have a more highly developed sense of connectedness to their surroundings. And touch is sometimes too intense for animals. Not even talking about Reiki touch, just talking about touch. They're very sensitive to it. But energetically, they're more in tune and connected even without touch than we are. So I invite you to try to see the world through their eyes a little bit instead of through your own lens and respect that sensitivity. So whenever we offer Reiki to any animal, healthy, anywhere, we never initiate that touch. If they want to be touched, they'll tell us, they'll show us. So find that space of trust that the energy is healing even beyond touch. Find that place, especially when animals are at end of life, because animals become even more sensitive to things like touch and noise and sound and emotion and everything else. I think we do too when we're going through this with our animal. Have any of you felt that heightened sensitivity at that time? So, especially at this time, do not force touch. Don't place your hands on the animal unless they ask you to initiate that. And also think about, we're talking about physical touch, but in this special, precious time of end of life, think of emotional touch and think of the emotions you're touching the animal with and use your meditations to calm those emotions so that you can be, instead of being an ocean during a storm with your emotions, that you can be a calm pond. If you've ever been at the edge of a pond and there's a little bit of lapping of the water on the edge of the pond, right? But not much, it's pretty quiet. So think of yourself as just really calming the emotional touch that you might be using with the animals, as well as being respectful of the physical touch and letting them be in charge of that and decide with that. Even when we touch our animals, we want our mind and heart to be that calm pond, right? We don't want to beam anything through our hands. Imagine we're beaming this healing energy out our hands and we put our hands on our animal. That can be very disturbing. That movement of our mind and that intention can feel so pushy to our animals. So thinking of our mind as that gentle pond, and whether we are touching our animals or we're sitting across the room from where our animals are, our mind stays calm and peaceful. Our emotions are calm and peaceful. We use our meditation to be in that space for them. And that's really how we bring comfort and calm and create a space that actually supports them in that moment. The fifth pillar is about animal Reiki as a mindfulness practice, not as something we do to our animals, but as a mindfulness practice for us. And this is especially important at end of life because of all the emotional stuff that goes on, and even the physical journey that the animal is on. And I've noticed animals in this final chapter of their life, they have periods where they go inward and they're there, but they're kind of not there. What are they doing? I really feel that they are healing themselves. They are doing spiritual work. And so we want to give them the space to do that. And so really being mindful, what's going on with your animal? Do they need more space? Do I need to back up? How are my emotions? Am I touching them physically, emotionally? That requires mindfulness, that we notice where we are, what we're doing at each moment. That's really important. But also trust. Trust in the space we create. Trust in the animal to step into that space as needed. Let them lead the process of this animal Reiki connection. You're just there holding space. And if they want to step in, they can, but they don't have to. And you being very mindful of how they're feeling at each moment so that you can respond sensitively and honoring those preferences. So that mindfulness is really, really important thing to remember. And finally, um, Pillar 3 and Pillar 6 go together really nicely in the end of life. Pillar 3 is all about remembering that all is well and seeing our animals as whole, even when their body is failing them. So, in a nutshell, Pillar 3 is about staying positive, even in difficult moments. And Pillar 6 is that animals are teachers and healers. And so, I think these two go together really beautifully because when we remember our animals' wholeness and see their light, even when their body is failing them. When we remember to see them as that perfect, beautiful, bright light of being in this universe, it reminds us they are teaching me right now. They are healing me even right now. To start to begin to see an animal who physically looks perhaps the weakest that you've ever seen them, and they're just on their way into the great beyond, right? Perhaps in that moment they're at their most powerful to teach and heal us. I believe that. So it's kind of counterintuitive that we see their physical form fading, but they are coming into their spirit. And so they're teaching us and healing us even more in those moments. And I think it's a real gift to us in this part of their life journey for us to realize that in the moment. I think it took me a long time because I was so enfolded in my own feelings about death and dying and my own grief process and everything that I couldn't really see the gifts that were happening right in front of me. I couldn't really process the healing that was happening right in front of me. But now looking back, I can see it. Well, what if I could have seen it at the time? Wouldn't that have been amazing? So that's what I encourage you guys to really remember, to see through your Reiki eyes, or see the wholeness, see the perfection of your animals, see their soul. Look at them through that lens when their body's failing. See them as that amazing, perfect being. And then it's going to be a lot easier for you to see, wow, look what they're teaching me right now. Oh my gosh, look what they're showing me. Oh, wow, sitting with them, I feel healed. What a gift, I thought I was the one here to help them, but they're helping me. These things can only come when we are open to them, when we're open to them, when we have an open mind. So having that positive view really helps us to open our mind because, you know, all the physical things that are happening might tell us there's nothing positive here. Everything's terrible. My animal is dying. I don't know what to do. So we spiral into the negativity and to the fear, and we kind of miss this present moment, and we miss the light and the love and the gifts and the healing and all this stuff that your animal is pouring out to you in that beautiful moment. So our animal Reiki practice is what helps bring us to this place. And it's really taken me a lot of years to be able to understand and see this. In the blog this month, I talk about Dakota and Dakota's passing and the gifts that he gave me. But at the time, it wasn't easy for me, and I didn't hold space well, and I wasn't aware, and I was not staying in the moment. I didn't have this mindset that I've learned since Dakota's passed, and I've been through a lot of other passings and my own, battle with breast cancer and all of this. It's like you when you sort of meet that possibility over and over and over again, you start to be able to process it and experience it with a little less fear and shock, I guess you could say. So, and I think that our animal Reiki practice gives us the opportunity, to do that, to experience that and be in that space right now. I don't think I understood that or knew how to utilize the practice in the early days. It took a long time, but now I'm here telling you what to do that remember these things, practice these practices in the moment. This is what's going to bring that to you now, right now. So you don't have to wait as many years as I did to figure it out, hopefully. So when we sit with our animals, be with our animals, hold space with our animals, meditate with our animals at the final chapter of their life, in their last days, in their waning time on this earth before they move on to the great beyond. Keeping the 6 pillars of the Let Animals Lead method close to your mind, close to your heart, and bringing yourself back when you feel yourself going off track, bringing yourself back with those pillars. This is my best advice to you, to be able to be the biggest support for the animals at this time in their lives, but also the biggest support for their people. And also, you are developing, growing, and deepening your own understanding about living and dying and what that means in your own spiritual journey. And that's part of what I mean when I say animals are such amazing teachers, because they show us so much of this, I think, for us, so that when we are in that moment ourselves, we remember, we draw upon that wisdom they gave us. What a gift. So those are my thoughts about this topic tonight, and I would love to open it up to you guys for comments, sharing, questions, anything that you guys would like to share before we finish tonight with our meditation together. So you can unmute yourself, you can raise your hand, whatever you guys would like to do. Anybody? Karen, you have your hand raised. Yes.
I just wanted to say, when you helped me with all of these things, going through it myself multiple times over the years we've been together, um, just what a huge difference it does make. And it's exactly what you said, not only for the animal, our animals, but also just for ourselves and the people around us. It really did make all the difference in the world. And your mantra of just all is well and seeing them with our Reiki eyes, um, became kind of the background mantra that helped me through each of those times. And to this day, whatever the topic that is challenging me at the time, your voice and that mantra is what gets me through it. And so it just, it's amazing what a difference all of this does really make.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love hearing that. That's wonderful.
Well,
Thank
thank you.
you. And Darlene.
Yeah, for me, I know I've shared this, you know, maybe not to this group, but you know, I had just finished the Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners class in December of 2020. And a week later, my dog Roxy was diagnosed with cancer. And, having the Reiki practice and having Leah at the time there to help guide me through and remind me of what I had just learned and how to use that to get through that process. It was just so amazing to be able to help me and help Roxy to get through those 5 weeks before she passed. And I know that, I was able to use the meditations with her, daily. And it was the heart to heart meditation when I knew that it was near her end, that, when she came to me and said, it's time. And so I knew, it's like I slept with her that night on the floor, and I just, okay. And, it just was so peaceful. It's like it was heartbreaking, but peaceful at the same time, knowing that, I did what I could to make her final weeks and days as comfortable as possible, and that I was able to have that connection with her to know when it was time.
Mm. Mhm.
And then with having the couple years of practice, we lost a Skip unexpectedly back in September. And it's like it came right back to me, and you know the night that we spent at the emergency vet with him and the 2 trips back and forth. It was about a half-hour drive each way, that I, just sat with him in the back seat and just was just, using my Reiki, with him, just like, okay, we're going to get through this, whatever comes up, and it just really helped when we did have to make that final decision that, you know, it was time for him, but it was at least brought a little peace of mind knowing that I was able to use this for me, for my husband, and for Skip
Mhm.
during those final moments. So
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Olive, you have to unmute yourself, Olive. I can't see you. If you're...
Okay, am I unmuted yet?
There you are. Now you are. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Gosh, this is every time we talk about this grief from our transitioned animals, it's really it's hard. It's really hard. Um, I have so much gratitude for our meditations and everything, and nothing makes it easier. You can be present, but um,
It's hard.
it's
Absolutely. The hardest thing we ever do.
all,
Absolutely.
always. But I'm going to say, a year and a half ago in Jack's, um, my heart horse transitioned. Um, I didn't reach for the meditations at that time. I don't think I knew enough to go there and facilitate that with myself. And so, um, but when I remember sharing that with you, and you were so kind about all of it. And I remember I had to leave the class because I, pretty much couldn't function. But I learned a lot in the last year and a half about why it's so hard, because on your spiritual level, and that combined with all the emotion that you put into your time with the animals, not the beaming thing that we're always trying to avoid, but the actual just moments of silence or moments of, just deep understanding and appreciation. So this year I had 3 horses transition, and I work with older horses on purpose because what I learned from Jax, who had a horrible life, neglected, was scarred, missing an eye, and I think from that I learned that, you know, the agency that we work with here and allowing animals to make their own choices. When they choose you, it's amazing. It's I bond with the horses that I work with because I'm like a horse in me. And so I can't help it. I just go and try to separate myself. And it's funny because I always thought I would end up just working with dogs all the time as a massage therapist, but I ended up working with horses whom I've been around my whole life, but took a break for like a decade and a half. And now that I'm back, but Jax taught me something about allowing those feelings to be there because it's honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was okay to feel horrible about it. But I was so closely connected to him. And Jax was my first horse that I ever did meditations with. And it was the most revealing thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And that was when I was in level 1. And I think because of that, he showed me so many different I'm sorry, just still feel a lot of that. Um, it was okay because I thought maybe in the process of doing all of this, I should work with younger horses or do something like that. But actually, it ended up being, I don't know, there's just something so deeply personal about transitioning with an animal, and I don't think there's always a lot of words for this. You want to be able to explain things, I do, but I can't. So when the 3 horses that I was working with this year, 2 of them were very special to me, and one of them I had just started working with. But they're all like in their 20 years old here and there, and 28. So you kind of think that's going to happen down the road, anyways. Nothing prepares you for it ever. Nothing. But I think that you learn about their individual processes and you go through it with them, and it's in silence most of the time. Mm-hmm. So that spiritual aspect, that emotional combination, I think it's so important in what we do because it's about the gift of creating space for these animals.
And thank you for saying what you said about it's okay to feel bad because when we talk about holding space for animals and their people, we give the animals and people their space to go through this however they need to, right? Let's give ourselves that same space and that same kindness, right? We don't have to be perfect. We just have to show up. I think that's, that just really showing up and being present in that love. That is all we need to do. That's enough.
But you made good mention about, the people that are part of this. It's the mommies, the humans, the guardians of the horses, and the other animals. They're all a big part of this too. And I'm going to say, in working with the animal portion of Reiki, I still have a lot to learn about the people and how to take care of that with them because they're present with the horse too. So that's a whole different area. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'll learn, I'm sure. But it's something you can't forget, though. They're there too. Even dogs, cat, whatever you're working with. I mean, the people are there,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to feel like you're including them in this with you as you're holding space for their horse. And Don't tell me to do chair massage then, because I'm not going to do that.
No, I think it's really more of a heart space. And like I was saying earlier, that in that chapter of time, people feel it.
Yeah.
People are tuned in. Even though we tune out, in that moment, we tune in. And so you don't, in a way, in those moments, you don't need words. You don't need touch with people either, because we're in an altered space. We're in a much more open, receptive space than we normally live our human lives. Usually we're clueless, but in those moments, everything stops and we really tune in, because of our love. And so that's an opportunity for you to hold space in the same way you would an animal, and the person is going to, they're going to also be receptive to that.
Well, the people, when the horse, like when Jax transitioned, and Daphne and a few of the other horses that I worked with, I just have this connection to the people now, that these particular individuals that I didn't before. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We
Yes.
know something and we shared something very personal.
Yep.
And so I still connect with them. I still connect
Yep.
with people.
I
I
love
feel like that thread is there now, like forever. So
Oh, love that.
it's just different. I'm sorry I started to cry. I always cry when I think of Jax.
That's okay.
Just
If you
can't.
can't cry here, where can you? This is your space. Thank you, Olive. Blessings. Mary.
So, as you were talking and going through all the different pillars and all that, as you were talking, I was reflecting on how I handled passings of my different pets, my dogs, through a period of time. And it was interesting to me. It was like I could see it in my mind, like, you can see your life passing, but I could see the progression from being tight and chaotic and I don't know what to do, and being there and just being almost so involved in myself that I forgot what was happening for my dog at the time. But then I could see over time the change, and particularly, and then I tie it to the learning that I had with you, Kathleen, for the Animal Reiki practice. Now, I will admit I've not been a frequent practitioner in the last year or so, but somehow it felt like it got embedded or internalized. So in the most recent passings of some of my pets, it was like, well, I didn't do a meditation or anything, but I knew in my mind, I knew to be peaceful. I knew to create space for them and to let them just be, sort of like, it was like just there and knowing it without having to do it. And particularly with my last dog that died in July, that was sad and you're crying, but it was just a much more peaceful sort of event and transition, because I remembered these things. As I'm going back, I didn't consciously know I was doing it, but I remembered someplace deep inside, thank you very much, that these things were coming out and were happening. And then 2 weeks after my dog passed, my friend's dog needed to pass, and I went to be with her. And this is the first time I was with somebody else. And I remember being there and being just very peaceful for her and calm, and seeing this dog as who he was. And I loved him and I knew him. And again, these things were just like, oh, there they were, things that you were saying. And then about a week or so later, an animal communicator told me that this dog had said, he said, I couldn't have passed so peacefully if you weren't there. And I was like, oh
Oh,
my
that's
God, it
so
all came together
beautiful.
because the owner was just just a sort of an emotionally tight sort of person. And you could just see her, and you could just see her energy was like, whoa, you know what I mean? And then when she told me that, it was like, oh my God, he said, thank you. I couldn't have done it as peacefully if you weren't there.
Oh,
It was just like, oh God, that's when I kind of came around to going, this is a really important stuff. And so when your blog came out in January, in my head, it kind of clicked. I need to do this as a practice because it just resonates so much. It's sad and it's hard, but it just resonates so much that it's an important thing to do. So thank you for whatever I learned way back then. That is with me, and now I'm going to resit and make sure it really is in there. And
wonderful.
that that I can do this for other people, I think.
Oh, I love that.
So
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for sharing. Thank you. Gabby. You have to unmute yourself, Gabby. I can't see you, so I can't tell if you're. Oops, try again. I think, yeah, it looks like it's going on and off. It won't unmute for you, huh? Trying to unmute you, but it won't let me do it either. Huh. Sorry about that. You'll just have to email me instead. Sorry. All right. Tina says she resonates with that, Mary and Kathleen. I'm grateful to have this too and way of being now, but I carry a lot of guilt about how I handled the transitioning of my past 2 dogs. Any ideas on how to let that go? Well, that's really great, Tina. I'm glad you brought that up because I feel that way about Dakota, actually, because like I was saying, Dakota was kind of the beginning of my journey into understanding, going deeper into understanding this. And I had to have a lot of hard things happen in my life to really get it, what I'm supposed to do and how I'm here. But I think instead of feeling guilty about why couldn't I just know everything right away, but really seeing it as, in a way, like your animals come to you to show you and to teach you and to be with you in this certain point in your journey. And you learn and you grow from that. And so it's a beautiful moment of growth and light bulb moment or difficult experience which changes you as a person. And so I think really, don't regret those things in the past, but see it as that had to happen so that I could get to where I am now. I had to go through that to get to this understanding that I have now. And, I believe that our animals come to teach us certain things. And so, your dogs came to you at that time in your journey to teach you something specific and to be with you in that point in time in your journey. And that's where they were supposed to be. And you were there together. And so it's absolutely perfect. And had you not gone through that with them, you wouldn't understand transitioning today the way you do if you hadn't have experienced it that way then, right? So it's all in perfect timing and it's all unfolding exactly the way it needs to for us to keep on deepening our understanding. Kathy says it's a mutual sharing. As we hold space for them, they hold space for us. Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Kathy. Well, such a beautiful topic. Thank you all so much for showing up and for sharing and being a part of our community. And I want to remind you, Carol Holtz is here. She co-wrote the Grateful for Animals book, Lessons from Animals. I forget the whole title. I have it here somewhere. In their Lessons from Animals in their final chapter, something like that. But Gail Pope and Carol Holtz are going to be in our community speaking on Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. If you are a member of a premium member of the Let Animals Lead community, I will be posting the link. If you're not in our community or you're just a basic member, just email me and I'll let you know how to participate. So I hope to see you guys all there. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. All right. You guys ready for our healing circle? All right. Let's go into Gasho and let's take a moment to set our intentions. Let's dedicate all the energy of this practice to our animals, our wonderful animals. We invite them to share the space. And I'd also like to take a moment to invite in, all the animals who are at the end of life and their people. And also, all those of us who still feel grief and are still processing that whole experience of our animals passing. This is a beautiful, safe, comforting space of peace and love for all of these animals and their people. So let's dedicate tonight's meditation to them as well. And we'll rest our hands on our lap. And we'll do some hara breathing, visualizing your breath as a pure and clear light. And as you breathe in, imagine it comes in through your crown, fills your body with light all the way down to the hara. And as you breathe out, imagine that beautiful light can expand out into your aura and out into the universe. So breathing in this light, filling your body, connecting with the lower belly, the hara, and breathing out, expanding this light all around you. Breathing in the light, connecting with the lower belly, and breathing out, expanding this light. And keep practicing this breath for a moment, just focusing on the light coming in and coming out. And then just relax your breath and see yourself sitting in this beautiful space of light. Light inside you, the light all around you. This light is filled with peacefulness and harmony, loving kindness and compassion, open-heartedness, support and comfort. And we just invite the animals into this space if they wish. And bringing our hands back into Gasho and just taking a moment to thank the animals for sharing this space with us and their people. Whoever stepped in this moment was just perfect. And setting our intention to finish, take a nice deep breath and slowly come back and open your eyes. And thank you, everybody, so much for being here and for sharing. It's great to be with all of you, to see you, and hope to see you in our online community too. So blessings, everybody. Take care. See you next week, Monday, hopefully. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.